Hi, it's Miss Lisa from the St. Paris Public Library. Today's Anytime story is called Bold Riders, the story of the Pony Express. Chapter 1, Off and Running. A crowd gathered along the dusty main street of St. Joseph, Missouri. People huddled in the early evening chill of a spring day in April 1860. They watched eagerly as a thin young man climbed on a spirited horse. A cannon boomed in the distance. The race against time had begun. The rider picked up a leather mochila, which had 4 pockets to carry letters. He threw the mochila over the horse's saddle. Horse and rider raced to the bank of the Missouri River. A ferry boat waited there to carry them across the water. As the boat moved west, the crowd broke into applause. Some cheered. A few even cried. Why were people so excited? It was the first leg of the first journey of the Pony Express. This new service promised to deliver mail from St. Joseph to Sacramento, California in just 10 days. That would be more than twice as fast as what until then was the best service offered by Stagecoach. Fun fact. At first, the western run of the Pony Express ended at Sacramento, California. From there, mail went by boat to San Francisco, California. Later on, riders sometimes carried mail all the way to San Francisco. Mochila, a specially designed lightweight leather bag used by the Pony Express to carry the mail. To meet the deadline, a series of riders would have to cover nearly 2,000 miles through what are now 8 states. They had to cross plains and deserts. They faced steep mountains and swift rivers. They braved dangerous weather, including bone-chilling cold. Riders also had to pass through the lands of many American Indian tribes. Some tribes were friendly, others were hostile. Angered by white settlers moving into their land, the journey promised adventure and danger. Plain, a large flat area of land with few trees. Hostile, unfriendly, or angry. Few written records of the Pony Express remain. Historians argue about who made the first ride on April 3, 1860. No one knows who made the first ride, but everyone agrees on one thing. The Pony Express became a legend, and its legend kept growing over the years. Fun fact, the Pony Express route passed through the present states of Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, Nevada, and California. Chapter 2. We Want Mail. Delivering mail to the West faster had grown in importance. James Marshall discovered gold in California in 1848. Thousands of gold seekers traveled west hoping to get rich. Mining camps and cities sprang up everywhere. Miners and settlers wanted news from back home. Providing that news presented a challenge. There was no internet. There were no telephones, televisions, or radios. Newspaper and mail were the only way to carry news west, and there was no easy way to deliver it. Fun fact, some men made their fortune carrying mail to men in mining communities. Miners paid Alexander Todd up to $16 per letter in gold dust to bring their mail to them. Todd made far more money than most of the miners and had a much easier life. Some people saw a chance to make money. In 1851, George Chorpenning and Absalom Woodward contracted with the U.S. government to carry mail between Sacramento and Salt Lake City, Utah. They used mules and horses to haul letters. Woodward was killed by American Indians during a run. Chorpenning was injured. Overland mail service to the west remained a problem. Contract to enter into a legal agreement. Workers returned to a California gold mine after eating dinner. Some mail traveled by steamship, but the water routes took weeks or even months. About 75,000 Californians signed a petition in 1856 asking the government for better mail service. Soon the Overland Mail Company got a government contract to carry mail by stagecoach. Their looping southern route covered roughly 2,800 miles, but it still took more than 3 weeks for mail to reach San Francisco from Missouri. William Russell and his partners Alexander Majors and William Waddell ran the largest freight company in the West. In 1859, U.S. Senator William Gwin of California complained to Russell about slow mail service. Russell and his partners then decided to expand their service by carrying mail. They planned to use a straighter route than the Overland Company had and a different delivery method: horses. The Pony Express was born. Fun fact: some people tried using camels to carry mail, but camels' hoofs were built for sand, not rocks. They couldn't handle the rough terrain of the American Southwest. Camels were also much slower than horses. Terrain: the surface of the land. Alexander Majors, William H. Russell, William B. Waddell. Chapter 3: Setting the Stage. The partners called their new business the Central Overland California and Pikes Peak Express Company. Most people simply called it the Pony Express. Their central route followed the same path west that some settlers and miners had taken since the California Gold Rush began. Just under 2,000 miles, this route would cut days from the delivery time for mail. A map showing some of the stops along the Pony Express route from St. Joseph, Missouri to Sacramento, California. The first overland mail route to California traveled through southern states and territories. The Pony Express ran its central route through northern-leaning states and territories. When the Civil War began, the U.S. government didn't want to send mail through southern states. If the Pony Express had used a route through the South, Confederate forces may have tried to stop it. Still, few people thought the Pony Express would succeed. The route crossed mountains, rivers, and deserts. Winter snowstorms and spring floods might prevent delivery. Riders also needed to cross land claimed by many American Indian tribes. Some of these tribes were warlike. How could lone riders get through? Fun fact: on January 24, 1848, a carpenter worked at a mill in Northern California found 2 gold nuggets. The discovery led to the California Gold Rush. The politics of mail. In the 1850s, the United States was divided over the issue of slavery. Southern states supported slavery. Northern states opposed it. California joined the Union as a free state in 1850. Still, there were many people from the South who had moved to California. The U.S. government believed that providing effective mail service to California would help make sure that the state remained loyal to the Union. Civil War, 1861 to 1865. The battle between states in the North and South that led to the end of slavery in the United States. The company set up more than 150 stations along the route. Stations stood about 10 to 15 miles apart. Under good conditions, riders could cover that distance in about an hour. At each station, a rider would get a fresh horse. After about 80 to 100 miles, a new rider would take over. A rider takes off on a fresh horse after a stop at a station. Most stations were dirty, lonely places. Station keepers kept fresh horses ready. They provided food for the riders. Sometimes other travelers stopped on their way west, but most of the time the station keepers were alone. Sometimes they battled hostile American Indians. The company split the vast trail into 5 sections. It hired a superintendent to manage each section. The superintendent made sure stations in his section were properly staffed and that fresh horses were always ready for the riders. People wondered how the Pony Express could make money. Running such a service would be expensive. Income from carrying letters could never cover all the cost. But the owners had a plan. They hoped to get $1 million mail contract from the federal government, worth about $29 million today. They could afford to lose some money at first if the contract came through. Fun fact: At first, the Pony Express charged $5 per half ounce, 14 grams. In today's money, that comes to about $140. That cost was later reduced to $2.50 when thinner paper was developed. Sending the same letter by boat cost only 10 cents, but delivery took months. Superintendent: a person who directs or manages an organization. Chapter 4. Horses and Riders. Now came the most important part, buying at least 400 horses and hiring 80 riders. The horses needed to be fast enough to outrun danger. They had to be strong enough to run through snow and swim across rivers. For the eastern part of the ride, the company bought horses from Kentucky. Further west, they used Mustangs from California. Fun fact: the Pony Express never used any ponies. The service used fast and sturdy horses. Sometimes they used mules for really rough terrain. Billy Johnson rode for the Pony Express. He later worked for Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. He showed how Pony Express riders quickly changed horses. Riders had to be expert horsemen. Alexander Majors later recalled wanting thin, wiry pony riders. Riders earned between $100 and $150 each month. They also received free room and board. That was excellent pay in those days. The average Pony Express rider was around 21 years old. The oldest was likely in his 40s. No one knows for sure the age of the youngest rider. Bronco Charlie Miller claimed years later that he rode for the Pony Express at age 11. Many historians doubt that he was in the Pony Express at all. Fact or fiction? Some stories claim that one Pony Express ad for riders said, "Wanted, young, skinny, wiry fellows, not over 18, must be expert riders, willing to risk death daily. Orphans preferred. Wages $25 a week." There is no proof that this ad was ever really used. Like many parts of the Pony Express story, separating fact from legend can be difficult. Men wanted. The undersigned wishes to hire 10 or a dozen men familiar with the management of horses as hostlers or riders on the Overland Express route via Salt Lake City. Wages $50 per month and found. I may be found at the St. George Hotel Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. William W. Finney, agent for the General Overland and Pikes Peak Express Company. Mustang, a wild horse found mostly on the western plains of the United States. Wiry, lean, and tough. Riders and their horses acted as a team. Sometimes tired riders fell asleep in the saddle. Their horses simply kept going to the next relay station. If a horse got injured along the way, the riders carried the mail by foot to the next station. Riders sometimes blew a horn as they approached a station. Often they didn't bother. The station keepers could hear the sound of hoofbeats almost as far off as the horn. Riders raced into the station in a cloud of dust. The station keeper had a fresh horse saddled and ready. The rider slung the mochila onto the saddle. Sometimes he grabbed a bite to eat. Most stops took less than 2 minutes. Fun fact: Pony Express riders had to take an oath not to fight with other employees, drink alcohol, or swear. Riders spent long hours in the saddle and faced many dangers. They might get trampled by a herd of stampeding bison. They might have to outrun hostile American Indians. Even if all went smoothly, they finished their shifts stiff and sore from their hard rides. Few riders served throughout the entire time of the Pony Express, but nearly all riders had exciting stories to tell. Pony Express riders were sometimes chased by hostile American Indians. Stampede, a sudden wild rush of a frightened herd of animals. Chapter 5. Danger and Daring. Few records were kept regarding Pony Express riders. That's one reason so many legends arose. No one could disprove them. But one thing is certain, the brave Pony Express riders had many adventures and faced many dangers. History shows that the Paiutes were at war with settlers and soldiers along the Pony Express route. When riders said they had tangled with or escaped hostile peyotes, they were likely telling the truth. Sometimes they even had scars to show. We also know that some riders lost their lives in the line of duty. One rider died when his horse fell on him. Another was killed while trying to cross a river. A third rider froze to death. A fourth never reached his destination and was never found. Pony Express writer William Campbell said, "Riding Express had more hard work than fun in it. We got exciting adventures at times to help keep things more interesting. It took sheer grit and endurance at times to carry the mail through." A Pony Express rider crosses a mountain during a snowstorm. According to some accounts, Robert Pony Bob Haslam had two of the most thrilling Pony Express runs. In spring of 1860, he rode about 360 miles through the middle of a peyote raids. The raids left a Pony Express station destroyed and 3 station keepers dead. At one point, the rider, who was supposed to replace Haslam, refused to ride into such danger. Haslam took his place and simply kept riding. Haslam was part of the team carrying news to the West of Abraham Lincoln's election as president in November 1860. This time, Haslam ran into a peyote war party. He later described his venture to a newspaper reporter. "Look at these 5 front teeth," he said. "They were knocked out clean. My jaw was fractured and I got another arrow through my left arm." Despite his injuries, Haslam escaped and reached the next station. Weather posed danger too. Richard Cleve recalled riding through one of the worst blizzards that I ever saw in Nebraska in early 1861. The snow was so deep he couldn't find the road. The temperature reached -40 degrees Fahrenheit. Finding that his relief rider was ill, Cleve rode a double shift. In all, he covered 150 miles in 36 hours. These stories come from the Pony Express riders themselves. Might they have exaggerated to make their stories even more thrilling? Maybe. We can't say for sure. No one can deny, however, that they rode through extreme conditions and faced real dangers. Snowstorms were hard on riders and their horses. Sometimes the snow was so deep it was hard to know where the road was. Pony Bob Haslam. Chapter 6. The Legend Lives On. Big changes came to both the United States and the Pony Express in 1861. In March, the Pony Express carried the text of Lincoln's inaugural address from Nebraska to California in the record time of 7 days and 17 hours. On April 12th, the Civil War began. Despite receiving some government funding, the Pony Express remained deep in debt. It seemed unclear how much longer the Pony Express could continue. Then came news of progress that would doom the Pony Express. A recent invention called the telegraph allowed messages to travel as coded electronic signals over a wire strung between wooden poles. Telegraph lines were built to connect the United States from coast to coast. Fun fact, only one mochila was ever lost. A letter from it was found 2 years later and delivered. Inaugural address, the speech a president gives when he or she is sworn into office. Telegraph, a system of sending messages over long distances that used wires and electrical signals. Over time, telegraph lines extended all the way west to California. By October 1861, messages could travel from New York to San Francisco in minutes by telegraph. That included the time it took an operator to decode the message. Just 18 months after it began, the Pony Express closed. The final mail messages were delivered on November 20th. They mourned the end of the Pony Express. The Sacramento Bee wrote, "Our little friend the pony is to run no more. Farewell, swift-footed messengers." As a business, the Pony Express failed, but its legend continued to grow as a symbol of Western adventure. People loved to hear stories about its riders and the dangers they faced. Through Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, people across the world got a glimpse of how the Pony Express worked. 2 famous bills. 2 of the most famous men associated with the Pony Express were both named Bill, Wild Bill Hickok and Buffalo Bill Cody. Hickok worked at the Pony Express station. He later became one of the West's most famous marshals. Many experts doubt Cody's claims that he was a Pony Express rider. After becoming a famous buffalo hunter, he created Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. He toured the United States and Europe with his show. He even performed for Queen Victoria of England. His show helped build the legend of the Pony Express. Marshal, an officer of a federal court who has duties similar to those of a sheriff. Buffalo Bill's Wild West, a poster for Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. Fun fact, during its 18 months in business, the Pony Express carried almost 35,000 pieces of mail. Over time, the facts and legends about the Pony Express started to blend together. We may never know whether all of the stories about the Pony Express and its riders are true. In the end, maybe it doesn't matter. It represents an exciting time in the history of the United States.